wanted to do a brief introduction of Jim. He is the mayor of Cedar Park, re-elected in May 2024 for a second term. So congratulations on that. You must have done a great job if you were re-elected. You continue to play a key role in continuing the smart and successful growth of Cedar Park as a thriving, safe, and inclusive community. You're also part of the Transportation Policy Board, CAMPO, for the Capital Area Metropolitan Area. You have played a big role in having Cedar Park and Williamson County become a hub for the Central Texas Spaceport Development Corporation, which is a nonprofit entity. And I'm personally very excited about it because space has always been something that I've been fascinated from my childhood. So that's amazing. You're also an attorney in your I guess other parts of your life, but 15 years of practice. You are currently the in-house counsel for an AI company headquartered in Austin, Avathon. And last but not least, Jim graduated from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point in 2001 and has served overseas for over 10 years. We thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mayor Jim, I'd like to start with asking you to tell us the top 3 priorities for you as a mayor for Cedar Park. And I'd like to kind of think of it as what do you think from a 1, 2, and 5 year, like a roadmap of sorts, if you want to kind of, answer the question from that point of view, that would help us to kind of get a sense of it.
Yeah, so I'd say my top 3 priorities really are economic development, and economic development. But that's really because it really fits with everything else we're doing. And so I'm a history background, I'm a bachelor's, and so I will go off on historical tangents sometimes. But you look at like cities that were boom towns in the 1800s, what they tend to have in common is they had coal and iron ore and cheap labor. And that built Birmingham, Alabama, built Birmingham, England, built Pittsburgh. The thing that makes cities successful now, and we're going to talk about how this is going to be even more true in the future, is being a place where people who can live anywhere want to live, right? It is quality of life. So I spend a lot of time as mayor recruiting businesses from other countries, but also other parts of our country. But they're coming because their best talent often wants to live in Cedar Park, or they know, Elements USA just moved their research and development facility to Cedar Park, and they're like, you wouldn't believe the resumes we're getting, And so we're once again rated the #1 safest city in Central Texas. Amazing police and fire, very, very supported by our community, and we have really great parks. And so we're extremely proud of our new library. If you haven't come up and visited, I hope you do. Because we really invested that to show just how important the knowledge economy is to our city and our residents. And so by being a place for great talent, it makes it so much easier to bring in the exciting companies of the future. And that's what brought Firefly and when it was 4 employees to Cedar Park, and now it's publicly traded.
For those of you who don't know what Firefly is, maybe you can elaborate. When they started, they were like 4, and now.
Yeah, and now, well, it changes every day as they grow so fast, but they went public. But they landed on the moon earlier this year. Really one of the most cutting edge companies in space. So.
Thank you. So economic development, and economic development. So from an aspect of economic development and Texas wanting to become a manufacturing hub for the country, how is Cedar Park looking at being a big part of that from a manufacturing angle?
Yeah, so I think it's something, we're kind of to note that this is my hobby as being mayor. That's true for all the cities outside of the really big 6 in Texas. But the great thing is that means you bring your lens of your day job, and you have as your city manager and professional city staff really knows how to run a city. You understand, get it, whether you want to or not, what's going on in our economy. And so, both in my current job, we're working using AI in industrial setting at Avathon. Used to be Spark Cognition. A lot of people know that name still locally. And then previously, I was general counsel of a large manufacturing company here. And you see how much manufacturing has improved in efficiency over the last century by small things. I mean, my prior company had cut its workforce on the factory floor by about half over 15 years. Just by process improvements, right? Like moving, some of the outsourcing some parts, but also just like setting up how the workstation is, right? And so that's a very analog improvement that made a very significant difference. Wow, you start talking about the advances we're having in robotics and AI and all sorts of additive manufacturing and 3D printing. That's like 4 revolutions going on at once. And so there's incredible potential for advanced manufacturing. It's a big help, frankly, to Cedar Park. We've had several advanced manufacturers in the city for quite a while. But in order to try and continue fostering that, we partnered with Plug and Play, which is an accelerator headquartered in Sunnyvale, and we're kind of working around the world as an incubator accelerator. One of the things, having worked in tech for a long time, I really appreciate is they're very focused on industry verticals. Ours is advanced manufacturing. We know that is a very strong space for Cedar Park and really Central Texas to play in. And will continue to be. I think all those revolutions going on at once, you guys are going to spend the next 2 days hearing about it, are going to mean that your labor costs go down considerably if you're manufacturing. But what that also means is that you're going to, need to be located in a place where their talent, the people who are able to service and develop that, want to live. That was true for SaaS, that was true for software, and that's, part of the reason California has been so successful, right? It's a high quality of life by nature of their environment and location. But I think the other thing it changes for businesses going forward, manufacturing businesses, it means your logistics become a bigger part of your cost of goods sold. So your location matters, right? And so the logistics of being in the center of the United States, or I really appreciate David's wisdom and looping in some of the potential in Mexico, that puts us in the center of the hemisphere. And with logistic abilities to push manufacturing and manufacturing products through the Panama Canal to anywhere in the world. And so there's incredible potential over the next 20 years for advanced manufacturing. Going back to your question for Cedar Park, for that means for us in the next year, we continue doing everything we do well and getting out in front of companies, creating a very high quality of life in the city. But over the next 5 years, I think we're going to see some of these startups, robotic startups, advanced manufacturing startups that are growing in our city now, are learning more, working more through Plug and Play. I look forward to a lot of IPOs in Cedar Park in 5 years.
Thank you. Related to manufacturing, you did talk about Plug and Play and robotics and such. I also was curious to see from the company's perspective, the ones who are approaching you, or you are real-time going and inviting companies to join. What are their pain points that you hear, right? Because that's another part. One that we kind of think about and one that they come back with, and how we taking steps to help towards those specific areas.
Yeah, and so some of it is their cost of labor. Certainly, like you get, it's gotten so expensive to live in the Bay Area, for example. Yep. Like you do have a lot of interest in that, and particularly the ability to hire some younger talent at more affordable levels. But also, it is that what they find attractive about us, this is the inverse of their pain point. Is that you have a lot of strong education in Texas, right? Obviously, the University of Texas is basically their aerospace program it's become like a direct feeder in the Firefly. But then there's, I think we're looking at doing a lot more with the Austin Community College for talent development. And then also, just that affects us as a city in terms of thinking about our land use policies, trying to make sure we have places for young people to live. We have, walkable mixed-use districts that are under development now. I think will be great places to live, very good for the city's overall economy, but also help us avoid the trap that some other regions of our country have fallen into, right? Where they have shortage of housing and it becomes extremely expensive to live. and therefore it becomes very, very hard to recruit new talent because new talent can't live there.
And can't afford it also, right? So that's the cost of living has gone up, the interest rates have gone up. So how are we kind of thinking through that? You mentioned UT's become a direct feed for the aerospace industry, and I know that very well. But from a manufacturing perspective, not everybody needs to come from UT, right? There's high school graduates who can come out, but they need some early education in terms of early skilling for the industry. High school doesn't teach them how to be skilled for the industry, and especially manufacturing industry. So how has the city thought about that, or are you talking? I know you said it, ACC is playing a role. I'm personally involved with some of ACC's efforts on advanced manufacturing. But I think the cities have to take a big role and also proactively planning for it, because if you expect a manufacturing hub in 5 years, the training should have started like yesterday, right? So how are you partnering? Is there any view of that for the audience?
Yeah, so I think that's something, we work very closely with our amazing schools. Cedar Park has Lander ISD and Ramac ISD. All of our high schools have extremely robust robotics programs. And so, the things that those kids are coming up with and just their inclination just to innovate, like it's something, a lot of them are learning from their parents, right? Because our residents, by and large, are working in tech. And certainly embrace it as a value in and of itself. And so you have that great culture built in through your schools, into your middle schools, into your high schools, community college, universities, and so it becomes an overall package, and it actually kind of helps us, especially because of advanced manufacturing, there's a reason that Samsung is building a fab out in Taylor, right? You see a lot of your kind of more traditional manufacturing and heavy logistics, heavy industry, going out of the way. It's part of that's talent shit. We have a household income, average household income now of 110,000, which is very high for a large city, or mid-sized city. And so you will not get cheap workers in Cedar Park. But if you want really highly skilled workers, that's something you will get. And so advanced manufacturing with, it's less man hours, but more concentrated in terms of talent and skills. That's certainly where we realize we're in a very, very sweet spot.
Okay, awesome. I want to open up the questions from the audience so that you get an opportunity to hear from them. Anybody has a question for Mayor Jim?
It's very exciting to hear your plan and your position in this new opportunity. I'm curious, what I understand is that the robotics, the manufacturing in the physical AI era is highly automated, and it doesn't create as many jobs. So do you have any projections in terms of how many job opportunities your city may attract, and in terms of your housing supply, based on that projection, are you in balance? Are you in shortage? Or, do you have more than enough?
Yeah, so the question was, just repeating so that the audience online can hear as well, was that in terms of what do we think the impact is going to be on overall jobs, since robotic manufacturing inherently has less factory floor workers, and then how are we situated for housing in response to that? And so I guess it's somewhat of an article of faith. I think there's a lot throughout history to prove this, but the word sabotage, of course, comes from people throwing their sabots, or the French word for shoes, into machines to break them during the early parts of the Industrial Revolution. Right? There's always been, as things industrialize, as things become more automated, become more efficient, less people that it requires. You think about people who used to take to harvest grain from an acre of wheat, right? And that's something a combine does in like 8 minutes. And so, but what that also does is create new jobs, right? And so I think there's a lot of jobs. This is not a job-free environment, right? We have advanced manufacturing, robotic manufacturing, like those robots. There's a whole new industry in this creation of those robots. A lot of amazing companies in our area, both Cedar Park, North Austin, in that space. And so innovation will always drive greater efficiencies, and I think that's the great news. That's the thing we should all be excited about, right? Is that you're gonna get more for less in terms of manpower, and that's fundamentally what productivity is about. For us, we're about 83,000 residents in the incorporated city of Cedar Park, including those districts, another 20,000. So that's 110,000 people in a city that didn't exist in 1972. Right, so we're growing very, very fast. We're on track to add like another 60,000 people before we see ourselves as largely built out. That'll be over the next probably 20 years. The things we're investing in right now are, again, creating those kind of walkable mixed-use neighborhoods. I think you got a lot of your younger folks, as well as people who are retired and no longer want to have a big yard to take care of. And so that's very important. We always invested very heavily and very early in our water infrastructure. So where other cities had water shortages in recent years, take our acute moments, that never was a problem. And so kind of leaning into our growth and never taking it for granted has been a key to our success and will continue to be a key to our success.
I think, Major, if I may interrupt, I think her question was also to say, with automation and robotics, are there really going to be as many jobs? Has your forecast versus what's going to be from a company's perspective, do you have a reference on that? If I got that right, yeah.
Yeah, I think that additional 60,000 people overall, right, that certainly assumes a significant growth in jobs. But one of the things we're also very careful too, and so like having that direct correlation, right, even if you think about it like family-wise, we also make sure we have a very diverse economy. I think that's always very, very important, just like any kind of ecosystem, right?
So if I may summarize, so I think what he's saying is, yes, robotics does take away jobs per se, but there's a lot of infrastructure that goes with it, that goes along with building something new. And personally, from my view, and I'm sure Major agrees to this, is while the robotics takes away the monotonous part of manufacturing, there's still going to be a lot of room for innovation and jobs that will be innovated. So there will be jobs in manufacturing, in my personal opinion, right? AI and robotics will take away the redundancy, will take away the mundane jobs that we are used to as humans, right? So it will allow the humans, I call humans, the engineers and the non-tech engineers, to spend more time on innovation. And I think that will always be there.
Yeah, and I do think it is very important for government at all levels to kind of realize that this will involve some challenges. And you'll see this, some of the first jobs that will be lost in the next decade will be drivers. And you look at Waymo, and like that saves a lot of money. I think there's a huge change that's upon us in this next 10, 20 years around what transportation looks like generally, the self-driving cars. But again, it's the monotonous things that it really AI best replaces. That's certainly what we see at Avathon.
That's right.
And the things that a self-driving car is a car that never checks its phone and has 8 eyes spread around the car. That's just inherently going to be better once you get the technology right. But there's a lot of people working at Waymo. There's a lot of people working throughout all these companies to build that. And so I think it's just a continuation of the same trend you've seen for the last 200 years of agricultural jobs being replaced by industrial jobs being replaced by very highly technical jobs.
Sure. Any other questions? I saw one hand there. Yes.
So first, from Cedar Park's perspective, your growth is going to, the whole Austin area is going to grow. This corridor from Austin to San Antonio is going to be, like, they plan it to be the next DFW, right? So how does Cedar Park position itself in that growth? And from we brought up transportation. We don't know where it's going to go, but I'm waiting for a flying car. This would be awesome. We don't need roads, but I don't think we're going to get there. So, but it's key to Cedar Park's growth, right? This whole transportation planning and how it gets better in 180 for you. But so what are you all planning for in the next 3 to 5 years from a transportation planning, and then how do you think you'll participate in that Austin San Antonio?
Yeah, and so great question. And trying to help the audience at home. So the questions about what is transportation planning in Cedar Park and how does that fit in with the growth of the San Antonio Austin mega region. I think for the next 3 to 5 years, I mean, we have a lot of projects going on right now in Cedar Park Transportation, adding additional capacity, north-south capacity, adding frontage roads on 183A. We are getting close to where like there is no more ability to add lanes, right? And so that I think has increased our interest in a couple things in the near term, like very, very near term. Next year we'll be adding micro transit pilot program that would be very similar to what Pflugerville, Kyle, other cities had in terms of offering a demand, basically a rideshare program, because we recognize that not all residents can drive cars. And it's been 25 years since Cedar Park seceded from Cat Metro in 1999. And so we realize that is a need that will connect with the Red Line, the train. We've been a real leader in adding alternative transport, meaning shared use paths, bike paths. So we're trying to add that infrastructure, not just for people that want to bike now, but people for whom e-bikes makes that a lot more usable in terms of getting around for work, recreation, or whatever. But I think there also is just, when you get to, I grew up in the DC area, and particularly with those tech corridor, and like, one of the things about reasons I lived here, moved here 12 years ago, is you got soul crushing in terms of traffic, right? And so you get to be a metro with more than 4 million people. You need more than just vehicles, right? And so I think expanding, Project Connect is extremely important to the economy of our region. Cedar Park will find a way, the red line goes through Cedar Park now, like we'll find a way to, I hope, make that work for our advantage and add as many options. I think when it comes to transportation, just like Hammer said about energy, right? It's got to be all the above. The more options you add, those is the only way, right? Like any to deal with the challenges of a large expanding metro.
And an expanding metro, expanding much faster than you expected to, also throws a wrench in the planning. So I guess you have to keep ahead of the growth, right? That's the plan.
You really do, and I think one of the things I didn't appreciate until I got in local government is like how long it takes to build things, because the old engineering adage of better, faster, cheaper, like pick two, like that is how we do transportation development, planning, and construction is better and cheaper, right? And that means it is not faster. And so, overall, that's a very good deal for the taxpayers, right? And we have now the second lowest property tax rate in the region in Cedar Park, and that's been a big key to Texas success, and those ours, right? And so.
Sounds good. Any last questions before we wrap up this session? None?
Oh, I don't give out my cell phone number because I tend to not answer it, but I will absolutely give out my email, and I do try pretty hard to keep up with that. So it's mayor.jim@cedarparktexas.gov, and I'm sure I'll hang out for a few minutes and make sure that David has the ability to get that out. And we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to see your businesses grow in Cedar Park, and if not in Cedar Park, one of our neighboring communities.
Thank you, Manager.